Welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality with Michael Cole, the podcast that shines a compassionate light on the journey of veterans battling through life's challenges. Michael is a dual elite certified neuroencoding specialist in coaching and keynote training presentations, dedicated to guiding military veterans as they navigate the intricate pathways of post-deployment life. Join him as we delve into the profound realm of neuroencoding science, empowering these brave individuals to conquer universal battles, procrastination, self-doubt, fear, and more. Together, let's uncover the strength within you to re-engage with families and society, forging a new path forward.
Hello, everybody. So today, super excited. We have Marquelle Brown, who's a functional medicine nutritionist, life coach, dual elite neuroencoding specialist, and much, much more. So I want to welcome you. Marquelle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me on your show. It's great to be here.
Absolutely.
And I have been a nutritionist since 2014. And I've been interested in health and nutrition for a lot of years. And I was interested in high school. You know, we had a lot of sickness growing up, and I was always wondering, why are we always so sick? And then I started having my own family, and again, still having some different illnesses. And my husband actually did have thyroid cancer. My kids were always sick. And so I looked into it further. And the one thing that really pushed me fully into getting my master's in human nutrition and functional medicine was our oldest daughter. We sent her to school, and it had been hit by a tornado, had a lot of repairs done, and she had a chemical toxic overload from being in the school from all the chemicals while they were repairing it before and during while the kids were in school, and it made her very, very sick. And so I had a certification as a nutritional therapy practitioner, and then the laws started changing, and I thought, okay, if I really want to help people with the knowledge and the experience that I've had, I need to have a degree so that I can be solid in being able to continue to help people. And as I have found that nutrition and nourishing ourselves with foods is one piece of the puzzle, it has led me to a lot of other things, learning to manage our thoughts and emotions, as well as helping the nervous system learn how to regulate, shifting from the sympathetic fight or flight into the parasympathetic rest, relax, calm. And so my further training, being a life coach and then learning about the Neuroencoding Institute and becoming a neuroencoding specialist has really helped to put all these pieces together so that I can help others.
Yeah, fantastic. And so many of us sit and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. What do they say? This sucks. They go into misery instead of doing what you did, taking action and figuring it out. So congratulations to you. That's fantastic. Yeah. And I'm sure your family is much better off. And you.
Yes, they are. And, our daughter, she was so sick. It took about 3 years to rebuild her immune system. And it was a lot of perseverance. And the reason why I kept searching and kept searching and kept searching was because my daughter was so reactive. She developed a latex allergy, and she would just go right into anaphylaxis.
Wow.
And I didn't want to live, the rest of my life fearing that she could die any second. And so, I kept searching and praying, okay, how can I find answers to help her system and her body repair? She was 6 at the time. And so it was 3 hard years of really intense work with nutrition and supplements and, delving into some energy work. And then we moved, and she had healed so much when we moved to our new home. Nobody knew that she was even sick. And
wow.
So, wow. And she's 26 now and doing so well. And, she still has to be careful, but she can still pretty much do whatever she wants. And she's living fantastic. A healthy life. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, truly. When you said 6, I literally got chills, and thinking as a parent, what your family went through. That that is not an easy thing. So again, got that leverage on yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, it was so hard. And I will say I learned a lot about mental health as well. Because 6-year-olds don't want to just lay on the couch and do nothing and feel like she'd say, I feel like I'm going to die. And her moods, after she would come home from the school and all those toxins and she'd start detoxing, they just were erratic.
Wow.
And I just remember going, oh, this is what a chemical imbalance is in the system, because 6-year-olds don't do that. And she was
Yeah.
fine before that. And then a lot of these things, I couldn't quite figure out what it was. Was it something with the school or was it something else? And then she came home and was okay for 2 weeks, and we sent her back, and that's what pushed her over. And I actually had to take her out of school because she had a massive anaphylactic reaction, not at school, but it was after school at the end of the week. She had some dental work done, and her body just couldn't handle the toxic overload. And I had to take her out of school because she
Wow.
couldn't do it. And so one of the other things that has kept me searching for answers, not only to help myself and my family, also to help my clients that I work with, is, there are different modalities, different pieces to the puzzle. And I kept taking my daughter to the doctor, and they would run blood work, and they'd say, I'm sorry, there isn't anything I could do for you other than send me with an EpiPen. And I'm like, oh my heck, I have this very fragile child that is so reactive that she really could die at any point, and those EpiPens are not always a guarantee.
Right.
And I was like, there has to be more to be able to help her. And so I really feel God's hand was in this, and he really guided me a lot to everything that I have found.
Awesome.
And that nutrition piece was huge. And then I got to go on to, the brain health and learning, worked with a therapist in mental health as a coach. And so I got to learn more tools. And then I've been able to even go further with more of the neuroencoding.
Fantastic. And now you're the rock star you are. Yep. And it looks like we lost Marquelle just for a minute. So I'm going to go off screen, and we'll be back as soon as I see her back on. And it looks like our tech issue is over, and we're bringing Marquelle back to the stage.
Hi. Sorry about that.
Hey, like I always tell everybody, this is live. It's not Memorex if you're old enough to know that. This is not edited. This is us. Okay. So if we can we talk a little bit more about explaining the connection between gut health, autoimmune conditions, which is what we were talking about as well, and trauma. I think it's essential to address these areas together, really, in your practice. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we experience trauma, our nervous system is disrupted. There's usually a shock to the system. And oftentimes that's because people haven't been able to move through that trauma appropriately. And so sometimes it just gets stored in our nervous system. And so we can be stuck in the sympathetic fight flight, which is the overwhelm, anxious, worried, anxiety, or we can dip to the freeze, which is a collapse where we just want to shut down. And so when we have these trauma responses, it actually slows down all the systems. It slows down our digestion. So it actually, a lot of people who have had trauma, they'll say, I'm sick to my stomach. Now that can be intuition. And a lot of times, because of when we have this trauma, this unresolved trauma, it can become chronic. And so they definitely have gut issues. And when you look at the autonomic nervous system, there's another portion of that which is in the gut. It's called the enteric nervous system. And it's just tons of nerves in that enteric nervous system. And so the gut is compromised. And therefore, this gut-brain axis. So therefore, the brain health is compromised. We've got moods, we have all of the anxiety or the depression and things that can accompany that traumatic response. And so when the nervous system is dysregulated over time and the gut, because it is compromised because of the trauma response, we aren't able to digest and utilize our foods as well, which makes us susceptible for more infections, pain and inflammation, which over time leads to autoimmune.
Right.
The percentage is very high for those who have autoimmune diseases. There is some sort of a trauma. And so oftentimes as a nutritionist, I get people that come to me that want to work on their health, whether it's a diagnosis that they have or gut issues. And most of the time when people come to me, it's because they've been to so many doctors that they aren't getting the answers to help reduce their symptoms. And so as I started noticing this pattern with the correlation, okay, we're having people come in here for improving their nutrition, modifying their lifestyle factors, and improving these diseases that they've occurred throughout their life experiences, I started noticing the trauma pattern.
Mm.
And I have had my own trauma as well. And so I was, working a lot on myself and learning to also help myself. And so I started seeing the pattern with clients. And so now I actually ask clients, have you had any trauma in your life? Is there any significant event? And usually they'll say yes. And then sometimes, as we generate more and they get to know me better, sometimes that will come out because
Right.
trust it's from so long ago, or they don't really think that it matters. And so they don't bring it up because again, they're still pushing it away. That's a long time ago. I just need to get over it. That doesn't have anything to do with this. And so it is all connected. And with functional medicine, we are looking at mind, body, spirit. We're looking at the whole system. We can't just look at one piece of the puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
which is why a lot of times people can't find an answer, because if they're going to a gut doctor, they're only looking at the gut. If they're having mental health issues, they're only, going to the therapist or the psychiatrist to get medication, and they're not looking at everything as it's integrated together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Marquelle, have to just add, I'm a huge believer in what you're saying. I've seen it myself. You're trying to figure it out, and you go to the doctor and this specialist and that specialist, this specialist, and then all of a sudden you have a life change, or you just get in a better place, and some of those things just seem to go away. So
True.
yeah, I'm a believer. So thank you for sharing that very much. So you talked about you having trauma and that kind of stuff, and I'd like to talk about that, especially with the veterans and their families. And how's your experience with PTSD and trauma influenced your approach, helping others, especially veterans and their families can use these skills who are struggling with trauma and related challenges.
Yeah. It is a challenge, especially when it's chronic. And so with the family members, I think it's just really important for them to hold the space for the one that is going through the trauma, to love them where they're at. And if they can really work on loving without judgment, and just being curious, oh, that's interesting, or validating, oh, that's really hard. That is so hard. And for those veterans, who have served, seen horrific things and experienced horrific things, bringing in that self-compassion for themselves, that was really hard. And it's so hard that, my system is just still responding to that. I think one of the hardest things for the person going through the PTSD is feeling like you have no control.
Right.
Really can't control that. And you know what? Until you gain tools and you find the right combination for you as the individual, it is, we really can't control it, because it's the system just responding to a trigger or something that flashes the memory. And it's like so automatic it is overwhelming and all consuming. And so I think it's very important to have tools and know that you can write it out. And what I've found over time as I've worked on my own PTSD is it doesn't happen very often now. And if it does, it is short-lived. Like I can get myself regrounded, my system calmed down within a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before it was just like one trauma trigger after another. And I was like constant 24/7. And like, I called it noise in my head because it was so much noise. And it's like, okay, how can I rise above the noise? And so, there are a lot of things. You have to learn to notice your thoughts, and what is true, learn what is true and what isn't, the automatic negative thoughts, the lies, intrusive thoughts, that imposter syndrome, and shine the light on it, call it out, and, restore the truth, flip it to what's true. And then you have to find something to do. We call that a scotoma in neuroencoding, where we have this negative and it's just like this vacuum and it sucks in all the negative and keeps sucking it in, right? And it keeps you stuck and you're just miserable. So when you notice what it is and then you name it and you flip it, then the next thing is you want to find, okay, what can I go do? Or what can I even say with some positive affirmations or remembering my identity to fill that hole and that vacuum with the positive, so I can move forward. And it helps to shift my mind from thinking about that to thinking about this over here. So even projects that you work on or hobbies or helping others, all of these things are going to redirect the mind to, okay, I'm going to focus on this, and really just riding that wave out of all of those chemicals flooding your system with that PTSD and feeling like you have no control.
Fantastic.
And it takes practice. And what I've found is you have to be really consistent, and you interrupt your pattern when you notice it. And sometimes if I could catch it quicker, oftentimes when I was really struggling with PTSD, I could slow it down. Now I do a lot more of being without judgment and being curious. That's interesting. And I know that's so hard. And then I just use all of my tools.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and really a lot of it is the definition we're giving it. If we're looking at it's the worst thing I've ever been through and really focusing on that compared to, hey, you know what? I learned something from this and it's actually changed my life and it's amazing, changes the game. That's what I found a lot with my coaching practice and working with veterans and their families. So great tips and tricks, tools, I should say, not really tricks, but tools there. So thank you, Marquelle. Fantastic. I really appreciate that. And still absorbing some of the things you said, but all really good tips. Thank you.
And I wanted to just emphasize how you said it's the meaning we give to it. And I find that acceptance piece and going, okay, yeah, that was hard. And yes, that happened. And also stepping into, what did I learn from that? And then going beyond, what have I learned to be able to help others?
Mm-hmm.
And once I stepped into that, my healing just went to a whole new level. Instead of being in denial and wishing it didn't happen, how did this happen? Stepping right into that acceptance of, okay, but it took me 4 or 5 years of being in dreadful misery before I finally was like, okay, I have learned a lot. I'm in a different place and I'm helping others. And it really helped me to shift. And that was life-changing right there.
So I have to say something. If you had Marquelle Brown in your life, or a coach, someone that understands and can give you these tips and tools and all these things, how much faster would it happen? You don't have to sit in it for 6 or 7 years. I think that's super important for vets and their families to know. Would you agree?
Yeah. And looking back, everything that I learned helped me to get to where I am now.
Oh, absolutely.
Take the tools and go, oh, okay, I have the tools. Now I can make it be faster.
Absolutely.
And I think the key with that, because I learned a lot of similar tools in my therapy, is the pattern interrupts.
Mm-hmm.
And, listening to our mentor, Joseph McClendon III, this week, one thing that really stood out to me, and I was like, oh, because I still sometimes am like, okay, how can I be prepared to notice when this is going to happen quicker and faster. And he said, well, you don't need to notice it quicker and faster. He says, you prepare for it before it even happens. And that's the stop technique we use. So we know that this is going to be a trigger. So we practice it on purpose. We feel bad on purpose for only a couple of seconds. Stop, stand up, look up, smile. And how do I want to feel? And then we do celebrate. Yes. Programming that that nervous system and that those neural pathways in our brain of, wait, no, I want to default to this. And so then we do it again, and we do that like 10 times, and we repeat it throughout the day. So the cool thing is that when the situation happens, or the trigger or flash, we can just default because we've already practiced it. And so that, for some reason this week, just really hit me that, oh yeah, that's how we can shift quicker and faster in the moment. And so practicing that and reminding yourself that you do have power. And the big key with that stop technique is the movement.
Mm-hmm.
If we can move our body, that gives us more, because we're changing from where we are to a different position, and it's interrupting the pattern. Kind of like when I'm sitting at the kitchen table and I'm like, oh, I need to go get a glass. And I go into the kitchen. I'm like, oh my heck, what did I come in here for? Because I totally forgot. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to the kitchen table and sit down. Okay, what was I going to get? Oh yeah, I need the glass. And then I'll be like, the glass, I need the glass. And I go and get the glass, right? So that's what we're doing with the standing, is we're actually interrupting that pattern and creating that gap. And then when we replace it immediately with the positive, and then we celebrate, we're that in. So that is how we can shift and take back our power. All little steps that are so impactful.
Fantastic. And thank you. I really, anytime anybody starts talking neurocoding, I just love it. So thank you. And having these little skills really change the game, guys. I for my own life, I know, and I'm sure Marquelle, you can say the same thing. When I joined and learned neuroencoding, and then of course went into other certifications with neuroencoding, it changed the game, changed my life. So it's such a beautiful benefit to be able to realize you're anxious or whatever the case may be, and just snap yourself right out of it, or just automatically go, why was I even upset about that? Why was I even thinking about that? Doesn't matter, and just move forward. So thank you again for sharing that. Fantastic. We're blowing through time here, so I want to make sure that we talk about the somatic and self-regulation exercise. What is it, and what does it do? Can you talk about that for me?
Yeah.
Super important. Yeah.
So somatic exercises come from the polyvagal theory from Peter Levine. And basically what it is getting in touch with what you're feeling. And when we can be attuned to what we're feeling and notice it, then we can ask, okay, well, what do I need? And then we can meet that need. And so this actually is a direct correlation with the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, and it's vagal tone stimulation. And actually, I have used this a lot with my gut health clients who are really struggling, because most people that have gut health issues their nervous system is dysregulated, and they're in that fight or flight. And so I'm going to connect some pieces here that I've discovered from my nutrition education, and then how important these somatic tools are, or self-regulation tools are, if you've experienced trauma. Because what we're doing is we're trying to implement this vagal tone stimulation so that we can shift, and we are intentionally and purposefully practicing these tools to help our nervous system relearn shifting from the sympathetic fight or flight into the parasympathetic. Or if you feel like you're stuck in that collapse freeze, you just want to isolate, these will help you to come back into that parasympathetic state, which is where you're motivated, you feel good, you can feel peaceful and calm and happy. And one thing that I learned, that this was like the last piece, I feel like, of my healing journey, of I kept thinking, my nervous system, what is wrong with it? Like I just would brace or feel anxious or anticipate, well, what if, well, nothing was happening. And so I laugh. It is actually a real thing, and it's very frustrating because I was like, okay, I've got my thoughts in check, I've got my emotions in check, and my system, what is this? Just uneasiness. And so I'm going to give a few really simple tools, and I would encourage you, if you can practice them consistently every day, 2 or 3 times a day. It only takes 1 to 2 minutes. You can take longer if you need. So that when you are triggered or flash or feel like you're in a spin, you can use these tools to help calm your nervous system. And over time, with the consistency, you'll be able to regulate your nervous system quicker and faster. And
Fantastic. Marquelle, really quick, I just want to remind you that, we're on, video as well, but we also launched all the major podcasts. So when you're explaining it, if you can just think about some people aren't seeing this.
okay, yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. So one of the tools that you can use, it's called orienting. And actually, if you have little kids, you can use this with them as well. And we already do it. It's called the I Spy with My Little Eye. And basically, we are creating safety or a felt sense of safety for ourselves while we look around and we name things. So I see a wall, a window, I have stairs here, there's pictures, a door, I've got chairs, I've got my computer chair right here, and I'm just naming whatever I can see. And when we do that with the intention, I'm safe, I'm okay right here, everything's okay. And we can bring in, some of the war veterans, with the loud sounds or bombs. Yes, that was scary. I know that was hard, and I am safe right here. So we can really create that felt sense of safety for ourselves. Another one is a funny name because I have animals, but it's called marking your territory. And basically bringing in our senses, a kinesthetic. So like I have a pen right here at my desk and it's got ridges on it. So if I rub my thumb over the ridges of the pen, I can feel that. The arms of my chair, they're smooth. Really, you can do this anywhere. Like if you're driving, you can rub your hands on the steering wheel and feel the texture of the steering wheel, your hand on the dashboard, you could rub it on your seat. I'm sitting in a chair here. I can rub my hands over the seam on the side of my pants and feel that roughness and that bump. The top of my table here is smooth. You can walk around and if you want, rub your hand on the wall or across a table. And you are creating that felt sense of safety in your surroundings so that you can generate that for yourself. And these tools, the thing is when trauma or traumatic situation happened, we've not done that self, yet we have to do our own healing and recovery. And so that is resensitizing our system, and our thoughts, and being aware of those emotions. So the other tool that I love, and you can all try this. If you're driving, you can do it one-handed, not two-handed. You got to keep your eye on the road. So basically it's putting your hands on your shoulders. So you're crossing your arms in front of your chest, almost like you're giving yourself a hug. This one's called havening, and you start from your shoulders and you gently slide your hands down to your elbows, and when you get to your elbows, you lift your hands and you go up to the shoulders. You do want to lift your hands when you get to your elbows. And then you do this, for a minute or two. And one thing when you do these different tools and you're helping your system shift from that fight or flight into that parasympathetic rest, relax, calm, sometimes my hands and my feet will tingle because I'm feeling my body relax. Sometimes yawn, and that yawn is another indication that, okay, my system is relaxing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give 2 more if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another one, it's another havening technique, but it's a hand warming technique. So you can rub your hands bilaterally, back and forth right in front of you. You know how when we're cold and we rub our hands together really fast? That helps to calm your system. And that's one that you can do really anywhere too, because people aren't even going to notice that much. They're just like, oh, she's rubbing her hands together. Maybe her hands are cold.
Right.
And same thing with the havening. When you're bringing your hands from your shoulders to your elbow, it looks like you're cold. So you're warming yourself up. Another one is containment, giving yourself a hug. And, it's always great if you can give somebody else a hug too. That will work as well, creating that felt sense of safety. And also, putting your hand over your heart actually is providing some support and safety for yourself. And you can also put, your arm around your abdomen and kind of provide some support there, which actually that also, if you've got your arm on your abdomen and you're supporting a little bit, that's also providing some support for your heart as well from below. So
Excellent.
These are easy and simple, and you can really implement them anywhere and, a few times throughout the day to start intentionally working on helping your nervous system learn how to calm and relax. And then when you need it, you've already practiced those tools, and you can just, I'm going to use this tool, because you can ask, okay, what support does my body need right now? I'm feeling triggered. I'm feeling like I'm unsafe. Okay, what do I need to do to help create that safety for myself right now?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing those. I enjoy those, and yes, I was doing them too. But and you do feel it, and we did this for a very short period of time, and you can literally feel it. I mean, that fast. And I wasn't anxious, but you still felt it. So thank you very much. Grateful you shared all of that plethora of information there. So we are at the end of the show. So everybody, first of all, I just want to tell everybody that can see QR code at the top right-hand corner, the blue QR code. Please scan that. It's for veterans. There's resources, books I've written, all kinds of Facebook groups we have. Reach out, get involved. If you're someone that just wants to help with veterans and their families, reach out as well, please. It's really important we get the word out and we share this information. Otherwise, go to empowerperformancestrategies.com if you're just listening to this on the podcast. Again, empowerperformancestrategies.com, and you get all the same information. So please do that. Marquelle, thank you so much for sharing these amazing gifts that you have, your vulnerability of what you went through, and those kinds of things. So really appreciate the time that you spent with us, truly.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the work you're doing and helping so many. And it's great.
Thank you. You as well, truly. How do people get a hold of you?
So they can go to my website, marquellebrown.com, and that's my name, MarquelleBrown.com, and reach out there. And I would love to visit with you. I give a 30-minute complimentary session, discovery call to see, what your concerns are and what you would like to work on. And then we go from there.
Fantastic. So thank you again. And we always close out the show with 3 tips to get veterans and their families further, faster, and thriving in life. What do you got?
Okay. Practice your somatic self-regulation tools every day. Do your self-care. Self-care is self-repair, and that could be a lot of things. And start to notice what you're feeling, where you're feeling it in your body, and what the thoughts are that go along with that. And noticing if they're true or if they're, intrusive thoughts, and switch them to what is true and find something to do to help you to be able to shift from that negative into something more positive. And all those little steps will help you go from what you think is impossible to overcome to making that possible, where you can find joy and happiness and have that motivation in your life that you're wanting to have.
Love it. Thank you so much. Marquelle, again, thank you for being here. We'll have you back on if you'd like to.
Okay, I'd love it.
Sounds fantastic. All right, everybody. What was that? Sorry.
Take care.
Oh, yes. All right, we're out. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful journey of Your Thoughts, Your Reality podcast with your host, Michael Cole. We hope the conversation sparked some thoughts that resonate with you. To dive deeper into empowering your thoughts and enhancing your reality, visit empowerperformancestrategies.com. Remember, your thoughts shape your reality, so make them count. Until next time, stay inspired and keep creating the reality you desire. Catch you on the next episode.